request our online speakers to switch on their camera while they're speaking. And for our audience, both who have joined in person and online, for in-person audience, please feel free to raise your hands when you need to ask some questions at the end of the session. And for online audience, they can write their questions in the chat box. So before moving towards the discussion, I would request Ubaidur Rahman Zia, the head of Energy Unit, to share the welcome remarks.
Ji, thank you so much, Zainab, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And this is going to be kind of the fourth and more of like a launch event of the regulatory sandbox that we, SGPI, kind of developed in close collaboration with a lot of partners. And it's under the title that is Redefining Power Sector, and this is basically for the residential solar industrial grid integration in Pakistan. So, I mean, the whole idea behind having this regulatory sandbox was because we're kind of trying to develop some consensus or develop kind of a scenario in which we have a lot of these different stakeholders aligning themselves with one of the very key reforms that is happening in the energy sector of Pakistan. That is a very rapid uptake of solar PV that the country has actually observed over the last 3 years. I mean, again, we have the colleagues from Pakistan Solar Association here. We have a lot of numbers coming in. And again, the point is that this solar PV uptake in Pakistan recently has been a lot organic. It has been a lot driven by the community themselves. Definitely, there have been some very supportive reforms years, but yes, a lot of this is driven by the community. Now, again, what has actually happened is that despite this solar PV growth, it has also kind of introduced an array of challenges for the power sector currently, the way it is governed, looking into the financial streams for Pakistan's distribution companies, the utility sector, and how do we actually navigate the whole transition was the major challenge that we actually wanted to discuss. So what we kind of decided was that in very close collaboration with the PPDB, NEPRA, our colleagues from Pakistan Solar Association, Mustafa will be joining us shortly from Renewables First, the colleagues from Ministry of Finance, and also including the colleagues from International Monetary Fund, IMF. And I think over the past, since 2 months, we have been running multiple scenarios on this front. And today, the whole idea behind is to kind of present what we have come up with. But at the same time, let me also welcome our colleagues here from PIDE, Ms. Minahil from the World Bank as well as all other guests that have joined us. And really look forward to, looking at the final findings that we have from this discussion and what key recommendations have most of the stakeholders come up to. So with this, Zainab, it's back to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ubaid. As Ubaid have mentioned that we were looking at the overall situation that we need to navigate this transition and the rising share of solar PV. We all know that the power sector subsidies were introduced back when there was a need to kind of protect the vulnerable segment of the society, the people that cannot afford electricity. The subsidy mechanism was introduced to kind of protect them from the high tariffs. But what's happening currently is that the people that needs the most support are kind of not getting the benefit from it. We have seen that there are certain default mechanisms, like there are multiple meters that people are using that actually don't need subsidy are getting the subsidy in this way, and the people that actually need the support are not getting it. And we have also observed that there is a phenomenon of cross subsidy that exists. The industrial sector is eventually bearing the fiscal burden of this subsidy that is provided to the consumers, the residential consumers. So what's happening is that this kind of inefficient subsidy mechanism have kind of forced the industry to move away from the grid, and they are moving towards captive, and we have seen a major decline in the grid demand. So there are two major issues that needs to be resolved. One is that how we can kind of actually provide a mechanism that could support the people that cannot afford electricity. That is the protected consumer category that we currently have. And second is how we can kind of support the industry demand so that we can make a policy that is attractive for the industry to be back on the grid or to consume effectively, because we know that industrial sector is the sector that is adding value to the economy. So it's very important to protect our industrial sector and industrial demand growth as well. So keeping these minds in question, we came up with this idea of devising this sandbox where what we have done, as Ved mentioned, that he had a number of discussions with key stakeholders that involved NEPRA, Ministry of Finance, PSA colleagues, and we have had the honor to have discussion with Ms. Afia now, and other development partners like IMF and World Bank. We had discussions with them and kind of devised some scenarios where we discussed that what could be the practical policy solutions that government can take and can impose, practically utilize these recommendations to protect those segments of the society. So maybe we can share the screen, the presentation. It's not working. Me children. Zabai children. Thank you. Okay, so we have seen that every year the subsidy allocation is a main part of our budget. And every year this increases. But still the issue remains whenever there is a tariff increase, there is kind of protests that are coming from the consumers that we are unable to bear this burden. And we all sitting here in this room have kind of impacted in a way when tariffs increase. So we all can relate to this situation that whenever there is a tariff increase, we all go through the drill and we all face the impact of the increasing tariff. So we know that maybe like we have seen that, and maybe I can show the historic numbers. We have seen that in the year 2011, the subsidy was 4.3 trillion. But in 2022 or 2023, we have seen that that number rose from 4.3 trillion to 726 billion. And every year, this number keeps on increasing. Besides this, we have also seen that there is the phenomena of circular debt. That's also one of the key issues of our energy sector. These issues are increasing the fiscal burden on our overall energy sector, and we are not only the government, but the consumers are also bearing the burden of this issue. So we have currently seen that currently 400 billion is allocated in year 2025 for the subsidies. And we have seen that there is a focus on reducing the untargeted subsidy, but currently there is no efficiency that is being introduced in the existing subsidy mechanism. If we dive deeper into the number, we have seen that there is a kind of mismatch between the consumers and the consumption pattern. We have seen that major consumers are the domestic sector, that it constitutes around 89% of the total electricity consumption that we have. But when we look at the numbers, the overall electricity consumption is from these 89% is only 49%, whereas the industrial consumer that constitutes only 1% of the overall consumers that are consuming 24%. That also kind of links that the productive demand is kind of coming from the industrial sector, to which we need to kind of promote and support them to increase this share of industrial demand on the grid. So keeping in mind these problems and the issues that needs to be resolved, we came up with this energy regulatory sandbox idea around this redefining power sector economics. And I've explained this earlier, that how this mechanism evolved. We have some kind of 3 closed door discussions in which we discussed different policy scenarios. Then we did some cost analysis, that if we use any particular policy, what will be the cost that will be borne by the consumers, and what will be the cost that the government will be incurring. And the second part that we made was how these policies that we are proposing are going to work in the long term. Maybe I will now pass the baton to Dr. Khalid to link this overall program with the IMF reform years that we are currently in. Over to you, Dr. Khalid.
Thank you so much, Zainab. Thank you, everyone for joining us, and my apologies for joining late. Well, the whole idea sort of jot down to IMF program under RSF. We have this conditionality agreed upon that by 2027 we are going to eliminate all these subsidies, cross subsidization that have been given to protected consumers, and it will be shifted to a direct subsidy mechanism that is through Benazir Income Support Program. On one end, it is very good that we are eliminating all these blanket subsidies and we are going to a targeted regime. But on the other hand, using Benazir Income Support Program for electricity subsidies for protected consumer, that might not be financially sustainable. One thing that we are proposing is, yes, do go towards the targeted subsidy regime, but also look for alternative methods, maybe using solar panels, reorienting that subsidy that we provide the protected consumer with, using and giving them solar panels. In that way, maybe that could be a good alternate option that would be financially sustainable as well. And then rationalize the tariff for those consumers who are consuming more. In that way, we might be able to break that vicious cycle where electricity is expensive because electricity is expensive. So maybe we can sort of break that wheel down as well. Our proposed model says that if we give them solar panels plus the World Bank plus NICA's efficient fan replacement program, that might be the way forward for Pakistan's power sector. So we need to get rid of this flawed affordability model. Tariff subsidies, they promote inefficient energy usage. We have seen that people they are opting for multiple meters in order to harness that benefit of protected consumer subsidies. And then there is high coverage with no targeted diluted benefits. Solar as productivity investment as well. One-time rooftop solar support builds long-term energy autonomy, as well as it will incentivize Pakistan's indigenous industry as well for solar panel manufacturing. For example, China's competitive advantage in solar panel manufacturing is for large-scale solar panels. But here in Pakistan, for this program, we'll be needing a very small-scale unit producing around 200 units. In that avenue, might be there is an opportunity for Pakistan to develop a manufacturing capability indigenously, and Pakistan can create jobs. We can have another industry, and then obviously we'll be having a good sustainable power sector as well, which will reduce its dependence on fiscal subsidies, obviously imported fuels as well, and then maybe we can use that tariff leverage and provide them to industrial consumers, and then we can again start that virtuous cycle where industrial consumers are consuming more. With electricity consumption getting up, power tariff will decrease, and then we can solve this crisis in a very sustainable way. So alternate to long-term dependency, maybe cash transfers. It risks consistency. It also create welfare dependence. Solar support create sustainable energy ownership for households, particularly for those who cannot afford solar panels at this time. And it will also add the inclusivity element to Pakistan's solar boom as well, which will again can create a just transition for Pakistan. So yeah, back to you, Zan.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid, for sharing the policy mechanisms that we were looking at into this overall analysis. So now I would pass the baton to my colleague Sarim for explaining the scenarios and the cost analysis that we have done for the policy options. Over to you, Sarim.
Thank you, Zainab. The scenario we are proposing is by providing the solar to the around 40% of the protected consumer plus the lifeline beneficiaries. We are proposing the phase-wise. So initially, we are targeting for the 40% of the protected plus the lifeline beneficiaries. So the cost of providing a 2 kilowatt solar panel is around the 75,000. And there are around 9 million beneficiaries. That is also equal to the beneficiaries of the BIS. So 675 billion would be the initial cost of the providing solar to these. And after we have provided them with solar, their demand for the electricity from the grid will reduce, and their bill will also reduce. And we have now proposed of a uniform tariff that is around 34 rupees. So, but our disclaimer is there that we need a fan retrofitting for the solar panel provided supported scheme. So their monthly units would be around 52 to 55 units consumption, and with the 34 rupees, their monthly bill will be around 1800. This is their current bill scenario with the cross subsidy scheme at 13 rupees. We have seen they are consuming around a one household with the 2 fan and the 3 LED bulbs is consuming around 190 units per month. And at 13 rupees, their bill is coming around 2500. What we are proposing is to give them a 2 fan retrofitted by the Nika, and then there's 3 bulbs. And at even 34 rupees, that is even a higher rate as compared to the cross subsidized rate of 13 rupees. Their bill is still less than the subsidized rate. So the cross subsidy scheme can be replaced with if we can provide them a solar. So the estimated benefits we have calculated from the rooftop is that there is a cost efficiency. We have seen the 40% of the protected consumer have been provided with the solar. The initial capital cost is not too much. The government is even giving a lot of in the subsidies. So in replace of subsidies, they can allocate the fund for the solar. There's a long-term sustainability. The solar is a clean energy that supports Pakistan's green energy transition as well. It also supports the household energy security. And then there's an environmental impact of the solar as well. If we are providing around 8 to 9 million people with the solar, so 3 million tons of CO2 emissions can be reduced roughly. So this is the same. The solar combined with tariff rationalization is even have a less burden on the household as compared to with the subsidy rate. So the win-win situation for the household as well as the government. The government don't have to allocate fund for the subsidies. They just have to pay initial capital cost of solar. And also the household still have a lesser monthly bill as compared to the previous rate. So it also enhances the energy security. The household can improve his household energy security. He can don't in the barrier of consuming more than a 200 and have a more bill. So the slab barrier will be removed from this. The government savings from providing the rooftop is if the 40% of the protected lifeline consumer are provided with the solar, there is roughly around 35 billion of the government savings. Because if there is a uniform tariff, the revenue actually collected would be around 57.5 billion, but the government has a scheme of cross subsidy, so they are actually collecting around 22 billion. So 35 billion gap will be covered with the subsidy. So this would be a government saving. So it's a cost efficiency model for the government as well. So reallocate the fund of the subsidy to the installation of solar. And there would be a question that the grid demand would be reduced if we have provided the solar household with the solar. What we are calculated, the grid demand is reduced by just only a 1.06%. So it is not much a case of there that grid demand would be reduced. So if now there is a tariff rationalization as well. So when the tariff is optimized, the rate of the tariff would be uniform for all the sectors, even include the household, the bulk consumer, include the commercial and the industries. So there would be a uniform tariff. So they might increase their demand. So this would be a case that this 1% would be covered with a lot more percent through the industry or the bulk consumer. So over to you, Chindan.
Thank you, Sarim, for sharing the numbers. Just to summarize what Sarim have basically said without numbers is that we're proposing that we need to provide the protected consumers with solar panels. And what we can do is that we can provide these solar panels through social safety nets that are already established, like the BIS program. And the outcome of that will be significant savings for government and kind of an energy sufficiency or energy autonomy for the residential consumers that are currently dependent on the grid. Like they have a kind of situation where if they're exceeding the 200 slab, they're going to get charged double. So we are saying that we need to eradicate this subsidy slab mechanism, introduce a uniform tariff, and provide the protected consumers with this solar panels. So thank you, Sarim. Now we'll be moving towards the policy options, final policy options that are coming from this analysis. And I would request Dr. Khalid if we can kindly share these policy options. Thank you. Over to you.
Zainab, thank you so much. I think you are better placed to highlight these options, but yeah, you can add to it. The virtuous cycle, more demand, lower costs. That is the dilemma for power sector. We are delve into this vicious cycle. Lower electricity demand, higher capacity charges. So linking capacity charges to demand growth, capacity charges are fixed, meaning that is more demand is generated, the electricity price per consumer decreases because the capacity charges they are distributed across the higher denominator. So the goal is to increase the demand, promoting higher electricity consumption for those who are consuming more, making it incentivized. Higher industrial and consumer demand, commercial demand, creates a virtuous cycle. Consume more, lower tariff, more affordability, and then consume more. This is a virtuous cycle. Benefit for industry and commercial sectors, even at rationalized tariff rates, many consumers still find their bill lower compared to the current subsidized system. This margin gives them household and businesses room to increase demand without financial strain at the power sector. Tariff rationalization will also rationalize a tariff in a way that there is an industrial demand, particularly connected with Pakistan's National Economic Transformation Plan, the Udan Pakistan, and the World Bank's 10-year program as well, where we have industrial growth plus the financial stability of power sector as well. So this is a proposed policy metrics. That is how to have adoption of rooftop solar at residential level and have industrial tariff rationalization at the same time. So objective is to develop a targeted residential solar subsidy mechanism. Again, the focus is on solar subsidy mechanism, not on a targeted subsidized mechanism. Because if you are providing the household with cash grants through BISP, I think that would not be financially sustainable. So we can expect that it will lower electricity bills for the consumer, particularly for protected consumer, and it will also create inclusivity among Pakistani consumers, particularly for those who cannot simply afford solar panels in this regime. Then reduce subsidy obligations for the government. We see that there are billions of rupees subsidy each year for electricity consumers as well, and there is a cross subsidization as well, which discourages higher electricity consumption. Industrial tariff rationalization, it will make grid electricity more affordable and competitive for industrial consumers. Again, CTBCM is also coming, so linking it with that, I think there is a good room for tariff rationalization as well. One major flaw in Pakistan's tariff mechanism is this uniform national tariff. Maybe that this whole exercise can provide good recommendations for having not opted this national uniform tariff, then synergistic impact on residential and industrial consumers. We need to design tariff rationalization models so that we bring industrial consumption into the fold as well. Right now, all the power planning that is being done, it is primarily focused on power generation capacity expansion without taking industry into the loop or into the modeling. There are some projections, but again, we need to look into the angle that how we can make our power sector more productive, we can increase more productive demand, and how we can improve financial sustainability of distribution companies as well, opting more sustainable finance sort of models, and how we can enhance grid stability at efficient rates. And then fiscal health and long-term sustainability. It can reduce circular debt, it can reduce electricity theft as well, and improve energy security, transition towards consumer to solar, and rationalize tariff for industries. And then again, lastly, the major benefit is we can reduce the fiscal burden that is mounting through this cross subsidization as well as subsidies for the protected consumer. So this is overall benefits and proposed policy metrics. We look forward to an insightful discussion on it. Maybe some radical ideas as well, but this is what we are here today. So yeah, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khalid, for summarizing the overall analysis and the kind of proposed policy metrics. So without further ado, I would now move towards our experts that have joined us today to share their interventions regarding this overall subsidy situation and the analysis that we have provided. I would now request Ms. Afia Malik. She's the senior economist. Ms. Afia, what are your interventions and thoughts about this overall policy proposal? Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Zainab. I have a question first. Your analysis is at the aggregate level or at the disco level? Because as what Dr. Khalid also mentioned, the major chunk of the tariff differential subsidy is for the uniform to maintain a uniform tariff across the country. So it would be better for you if you do analysis and disco wise and see how it can be overall effect. Otherwise, this subsidy will continue because as per the policy, uniform tariff is going to continue across the country. This is our National Electricity Policy 2021. It says that this uniform tariff will continue. So it would be better if you do the analysis at the disco level and then see what will be the impact on the overall fiscal, what will be the overall fiscal impact. Secondly, cross subsidy is not just provided by the industry, it is also provided by the higher slab consumers. A major chunk, now industrial rate has come down. Now the major chunk of this cross subsidy is coming from the higher slab consumers. And third point is productive consumption is not just by the industry, commercial sector is also contributing to GDP. So they should also not be suffered because of this overall tariff design. But as far as the uniform tariff across the sector is concerned, I fully agree with you that there should be a one single tariff. And for the consumers who are consuming 200 units, and your suggestion is absolutely correct. Then instead of providing a targeted subsidy to through BIS, it would be better to provide them with a solar panel. And before this start of discussion, we were talking about the as well as about the BESS battery storage, and you're saying that its cost also goes up because only providing what will happen is if you provide solar to the lifeline consumer or the protected consumer, but what will they do in the evening? How they are going to manage?
In our analysis, maybe I can add a bit into it.
No.
Okay, sir.
Because at that time they will have to pay a higher price for the consumption, and it will also increase the peak demand as well in the evening as well when they suddenly shift towards grid.
Hamza, if you can display the slides again.
We have kind of developed an alternate strategy because currently we cannot provide the battery because of the high cost. So we were thinking that maybe initially we can provide them solar and kind of the demand that is at night they can get from the grid. Simon can show the numbers. So what will be the cost for that?
I agree.
Yeah.
Cost will increase, but
So
it
this
should
is
be in the plan to eventually.
yes. So the solar panel will only cover the 10 hours, around 10 hours.
Exactly.
So by the rest of 14 they will be covering by the grid. This shows that the rest 14 hours coverage by the grid don't have a much impact on their bill. Their bill will be around 1800 still if they are consuming from, but with the uniform, even with the uniform tariff.
Okay.
I have a question. Sorry,
Yes,
you just mentioned that you are providing solar panels. Are you only providing solar panels or allied things also, the inverter and cabling and everything?
No.
Does that cost cover the 75,000 or is just solar panels?
There's no inverter, solar panel, and just other, you can say, infrastructure related to solar panel cost of something of a setup cost.
Is it covered in 75,000?
Yes.
You sure?
Yeah.
Sure, please.
Sorry, one more thing, and to add the maintenance cost as well.
We have don't have a monthly maintenance cost. We have some upfront 10,000 roughly around a slab of a cost. The solar panel cost on 60 and the other 15,000 for.
Assalamualaikum. This is Manahil from the World Bank. So I would say that let's start with the evolution of where we are today, and specific to the TDS and the subsidy and the protected unprotected slab that was implemented back in 2021. So in 2019, World Bank was involved with the ministry, and we wanted to basically see how to protect the customers, those customers who are vulnerable and poor, but at the same time move away from these heavily subsidized sector that we were in back then. In 2019, just maybe some of you might remember, around 90%, more than 90% of the consumers were protected. How? There wasn't any protected slab back then, but the tariff set was very low. Because obviously the sector was at the verge of, I would say, financial crisis, because they had to start accepting that certain cost, take that certain cost within the tariff structure itself. So what had then led to was this massive high tariffs that we face now. But at the same time, World Bank, together with World Bank, and we used there was a lot of exercise that was done. We took data from HIS, we took data from Poverty Alleviation Ministry, and we did a lot of simulations. And we basically, how this policy was designed back 60 from to take the consumers from 90% of the consumers, we capped it at 60%. And by 60% consumers, the protected, unprotected policy was designed at 200 level consumption cap. So, and this was backed up by the highest analysis as well, that that your basic utility of electricity would be covered, and according to design, 60% of the consumers were being under the protected slab. But this was a intermediary policy. The final goal was obviously to provide consumers that deserve this subsidy, right? And the only issue back then even was the identification of these consumers. So as you have also mentioned, there's a targeting issue. Yes, I agree. But at the same time, there's also an identification issue. We have multiple metering. We don't know who the consumer is. There's literally no tagging of, there's no CNIC mapping. There is no tagging of consumers. We are blindly giving away subsidies to these protected slabs. Anyone who consistently remains below the 200 category, 200 consumption can take away these subsidies. So we need to move to the third stage. And even back in 2020 and 2019, this was envisioned that the third stage would be that once these consumers have been identified, they would be progressively moved away from this subsidy and given an alternative. Now, your policy paper discusses about that alternative option, right? It could be solar, it could be cash transfers, it could be a different mechanism, it could still be on-bill financing, but to identify those consumers is the biggest challenge currently that we have in the sector. Again, now we need to understand the political economy around this protected and unprotected slabs. So, for example, if you map the BISP consumers onto those that are under the protected category, there is around 50% chance, which means there is no correlation between a BISP consumer and a protected category. Why? Because mostly BISP consumers, they don't have permanent housing. They move on from houses to houses, and even if they are getting subsidized, they might not have the so there's a lot of tenant and landlord interplay into that segment as well. So we need to first identify who is eligible, and then I agree, costing can be done. So the TDS for now is ample. yearly we give around 400 to 450 billion, and those are just policy-based subsidies for the TDS, just to support this mechanism that we have in play. But targeting is not just developing a strategy on what to do, but also like who to give it to, because the exclusion principle within this current structure is very, very large. Now, I just want to also want to say a couple of words on the IMF RSF target, or the commitment that the government has made. So the commitment is not on cash transfer. Between the lines, if you read the script on what is in the MEFP on the RSF, is that there should be a targeted subsidy framework developed, and it should be facilitated via BISP. Now, another distinction we fail to accommodate is that BISP is 9 million consumers, but there's a BISP ministry. So that text refers to BISP ministry that also houses the national NSCR, the national database. And mapping the electricity consumers to that NSCR can give us that first, I would say, condition or first eligibility criteria, where we can then see, okay, maybe it's not PMT under 30, but it could be PMT under 50, or we can also redevelop the eligibility criteria or redevelop who should get the subsidies. So again, the first step is the identification. The process itself on how to give it, of course, solar is more sustainable than cash transfers, but there, I think your idea is pretty radical as well, because if you talk to the government and say that 50% of the consumers are domestic consumers and 60% are protected, and all of these 60% you want to pull out of this system, and it's there's a lot of stranded cost attached to that as well. Another thing that interplays is that there's a good narrative on moving away from consumptive load to productive load, but the linkage is not very clear. How? Because the cross subsidies itself, one thing that Afia pointed out was that it's more like an interdisco play, but at the same time, cross subsidies from the industrial sector is very limited now, and it's been supported through the TDS mechanism. So there won't be much impact on the declining of the industrial tariffs that can then lead to their increase in consumption. So we need like a more comprehensive policy analysis where how we are supporting the industries. We need to also look at that. And for example, if there are at currently 25% consumption or 24% consumption is through industries, we need to be realistic and see that this 24% can maximum reach to a 35% or 40% maybe in the next 5 years. We can't take it to we can't accommodate all of the protected consumption that is happening to translate. It cannot be translated to industrial consumption. So that is one thing that it might happen, but it's difficult at where we are and with the cost of tariffs we have. Yeah, but I think interestingly, what you have proposed was done for agriculture consumers in Balochistan. So again, 2-3 years ago, we did this analysis together with the ministry where we wanted to look. So agriculture consumers were also heavily subsidized. So we went and looked into where the connections are, what is the agriculture load, and what load do they require, and who are these people? Are they rich farmers? Are they very poor farmers? And our analysis identified that those who have an agriculture connection are basically slightly better off farmers, because poor don't have the upfront cost to install agriculture tube wells and all the infrastructure costs. So then the government started rolling back from the agriculture subsidy. But at the same time, there was a political economy attached to the Balochistan consumers. And that's how the government came up with the idea of solarizing them. And instead of the government doing the solarization, they're handing them out. Again, these are free cash money, but it solves their problem of consistent loop of getting into subsidy that's then goes on from generation to generation. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, thank you so much, Minahil, for your valuable suggestion and insights. And I completely agree that identification of the actual people that needs its subsidy is one of the key challenge that we need to work on. And regarding the government's convincing the government to uptake this policies, that we've seen that in different provinces, like in Punjab, we have similar kind of schemes that are working, and we have seen a positive impact of those policies. Maybe we can scale up those programs. We have also been joined by MD PPDB, Miss Sania West. Maybe she can share some insights on it. Miss Sania, are you with us?
Here is Shazib. I'm just attending it on behalf of Madam Sania. She has to attend a very important meeting, so that's why she's going to join this session. But yes, you are right. In Punjab, a lot of intervention has been going on, and the PICA did a splendid job in part of civilization in Punjab. So they're working on it. And the key issue, as you have highlighted, the elimination of subsidy. So that is actually the problem across Pakistan. And with the intervention of IGSEP and the integrated energy planning. So I think these all issues are clubbing up together and to find out a workable solution. The EFN from the NICA side in federal level is also in place. So I hope a lot of interventions has been going on across Pakistan.
Thank you. Waqas, what's your interventions and take on this overall issue that Pakistan is currently facing, and how we can move forward in this direction?
Sorry. Also, Assalamu alaikum, Waqas Sahab. I know you're very good with numbers and the costing, so it would be good if you can also give an overview of the battery costs as well as the system costs that they have shared. Thank you.
Sure. I think that's something which Hasnat also, Hasnat is sitting with you. He also referred to that in terms of the costing. Quickly looking at the costing point first, as that came with a comment. It's if you add on the battery cost, it's going to add to the current cost which is there. So the current cost which is given should be sufficient to cover a couple of panels and the related structure cables and small accessories. The inverter and the battery are not included there. For the inverter, there might be some cheaper options which connect directly to the battery. So, and I think Hasnat can then take this on forward. On my side, in terms of comments, I mean, overall, I think we need to first just look at it from a broader picture. The idea of reducing subsidies, especially misdirected subsidies, that's something which is very important, and I think that's something which we need to laud here, that it's an effort which is being made in this direction, or it's an initiative which goes towards this direction. We do know that there is a big problem. The problem is that we're giving out subsidies and specifically being very focused on the less than 200 protected consumer tariff section or slab which we're talking about. We do know that there is a lot of individuals or a lot of meters which are not directly linked with the actual under 200. So there is multiple meter billing, or as somebody else pointed out, that there's it's difficult to identify who these people are because of the fact that the meter belongs to somebody else and the user is somebody else. So it's a tenant landlord issue. But we do know that there is a problem here, and this is a problem which needs to be identified and needs to be fixed. And obviously, this has an impact on the overall cost of electricity. So that's one thing which we need to look at, and I think this is an initiative in that direction. I think there needs to be further development of the initiative in terms of practicality and in terms of how it's going to work. Cost is one aspect which we'll talk about. Also, possibly the choice of letting the customer either take the panels or take a cash handout. Again, that's something which can be debated from a sustainability model in terms of what would people prefer. We did some basic workings, and the cost of the system translates to about 5,000 a month in terms of subsidy rupees, 5,000 a month. So that seems to be a reasonable number. So perhaps there could be an option to also explore what else can be done, because there are people who will not be able to use these solar panels. For example, if somebody is living in an apartment, if somebody is living in an apartment, or somebody who does not have access to the rooftop of their house, for example, people living in Karachi, which is a more, again, I don't know if in terms of this course, Karachi is covered in the analysis, but even in other cities, we have people living in urban settings where they don't have access to rooftops. So these are some things which can be considered. This is my point. Sasnath can further shed light on the costing of the system as well. Thank you.
Yeah, for costing, I just saw that these 75,000 just covers panels, not any other thing, like not inverter or cable or structure, because just a single panel cost is 16,000 and the market cost. So just 4 panels come up on the 70,000. So this one thing have to look, are we giving only solar panels or a complete solution for 2 kilowatt? The one thing. And the other thing was that Ms. Benail asked for the best system, but battery, should we provide battery behind the meter to the customer, or we should provide the battery at the grid? So what we have seen that if you give anything to the behind the meter to such clients which are not that privileged, they can't take care of that things which you have given to them. So at the moment we are looking for the battery and the best system, storage system coming up with the Pakistan. So it's better and the best option if we install the battery and best systems on the grid. So that will increase the decreasing in fact that will decrease the costing, because there is too much solarization at the moment on the rooftops. So battery is better to be installed on the grid stations, and like Dr. Saab said that introducing the battery will also help taking the manufacturing lines in the Pakistan, which we are looking forward at the moment. So we should connect this best design and these studies with the manufacturing. So if government is producing or having some such schemes, it should be connected to the investment scenes also, because we are also looking for the investment of battery best systems in Pakistan. So the both things should be connected. So these two things were from our side. But one more thing, that to identify the clients which are privileged to get this subsidy, the DISCO is the best thing, the best organization which can do this thing. We also we see or we know many of the houses which have 3 to 4 meters, single phase meters, to just avoiding going upper cap from the 200 units. So discos can be very helpful in this thing if we give some a project or a plan to discos which they can do on this. Otherwise, only giving some money or some funds, one-time funds, we guess it would not be helpful for a longer period, which we did in the Sindh also, in quite in Balochistan also. So, but this doesn't help us.
Regarding the costing, the per watt price is coming around at 30 to 32 rupees per watt. So the 2000 watt would cost around the 60 or 62,000. And there we need an installment cost. We are not providing with them the inverters. We are providing them. You just have to directly use the electricity from the solar. The way if you see the people uses in the villages or the agriculture consumers run their tube wells on the solar. So that is around that.
Then they have DC fans.
Yes, that's why we have all the retrofitting of the fans on the NICA.
Yeah. But most of the clients having 200 cap are living in the major cities, like in Rawalpindi. In Rawalpindi, nobody's using this DC systems, but they are using all the AC systems and using everything at the home. But they are using that cap subsidy, so that is to be avoidable.
The NICA scheme is there. The retrofitting of the fan. They are converting your AC fan to a DC fan. So we are linking this scheme with the NICA program. They are by the World Bank, I guess. They are supported by the World Bank, NICA. No?
So, yeah, NICA is rolling out this national fan replacement program, and it's on it's supported through the government of Pakistan. So they have gotten some money that they are doing it. It's not through World Bank loan. We did sort of something similar in Sindh under the Sindh Solar Energy Project, where we were giving out 80 watt panels, and it also had like a complete standalone solar home kit, and it had charging slots, it had a DC fan, it also had 2 LED bulbs. But over there again, these type of programs are good if they are they are at the provincial level. From federal level, I don't think so. These should be handled. So this federal and provincial linkages should need to be understood if you want, because the grid is, of course, national. Another thing that at the same time, our policy or net metering policy, if you are net metered, unfortunately you can't access the slab benefit. So it will be TOU meter for you, and then you will be getting TOU prices during peak times. And I'm not sure whether your analysis covers TOU pricing or slab pricing for solar after solar connection. Okay, 34 rupees.
34. Yeah. Thank you. Now I would request Dr. Fariha Armogan. She is the research fellow at STPI, and she is an expert with the social safety nets that currently are working in Pakistan. So, Dr. Fariha, how do you see this situation, that how we can kind of connect the social safety programs with this solar panel schemes?
Sure. Thank you so much. So I'll be coming from the angle that how do we optimally embed this intervention, this desired intervention within the SP paradigm? I mean, we really have to be very mindful that whatever we are talking about, it has to somehow be within the SP domain, the social protection domain, and what can be the optimal manner of actually knitting it within this domain. So first of all, why the social protection regime is the most optimal one. For example, if we talk about the Benazir Income Support Program, it is not only one of the largest in South Asia, but the whole of Asia. It has been able to tap 1/3 poorest quintile of Pakistan. Such massive is the operational capacity and the program delivery capacity of BISP. And then I think so they are doing every intervention under the roof for sustenance, for consumption smoothing, and for sustainability. For example, if I talk about their program from the unconditional cash transfer of kafalat to conditional cash transfer of Talimi Wazaif, the education for the school-going children, and then higher ed scholarship stipend, the nutritional program of Nashonuma, then even coming down to basic foundational literacy, the digital and financial literacy training, which they started last year, to the first co-contributory savings scheme in Pakistan. Again, this is like entering into the domain of adaptive social protection with tapping the first pillar of saving. And then you have seen the recent launch of Hunar Month, the skill-oriented program. So they're actually delivering all the interventions. Even the first, the Sehat Sulat program in Punjab in 2015, it started with the BIS beneficiaries, and then it became universal. So they have this capacity of tapping this, and then they can always rope in this intervention of energy deprivation, and again of renewable energy transition. So, but the bigger question is that how do we actually deal with the intervention? I think so there must be a very concrete theory of change and an evidence-based pilot testing before scaling up the innovation. I mean, this is really needed because you are totally dealing with a specific population and a specific targeted audience. Then again, there has to be a progressive approach around the intervention, and BISP recently experimented it. Again, one other very strengthening aspect is that it has always been the blue-eyed portfolio of development partners. It has always been receiving unprecedented allocations and federal budget. As we speak, the BISP NSCR registry, the National Socioeconomic Registry, it has passed the milestone of 10 million. And again, still there are conditionalities by IMF that it must reach the target of 12.5 million in coming year. So again, the way it is, it will be receiving the allocations from the development partners, the way we see it. I mean, where we are witnessing cut downs in climate, gender, DEI, social protection curve it's a very sharp curve going higher and higher every year. So it's a safe regime for making an investment. But again, how do we be very progressive about the intervention? I think so. It has to be, first of all, a phased approach. For example, BISP is is actually is using poverty means testing, PMT. And we have seen this in the health insurance intervention of Sehat Sulat program in Punjab, that how they actually it targeted the ultra poor under PMT 16, and then further categorizing it to the poor and vulnerable, which actually fall from 17 to 32 PMT. And in the hybrid social protection savings scheme, the first co-contributory savings scheme that comes with government matching, they've actually gone to PMT 40. So this should be the design, that it should not be restricted to PMT 32 going further, because what Pakistan direly needs, what our national socioeconomic direly needs right now, is persona diversification and product diversification. Right now, we have the ultra poor and the poor and vulnerable as part of our registry, unlike the rest of the world. Even in Africa, informal workers, informal household enterprises, public works, agri-labor force, they're all part of dynamic registries. For the very first time, under Sin social protection paradigm, they will be adding agriculture, labor, women force, and urban informal worker, because there's a law, there's legislation at the back end of Agri-Labor Force Act 2019. But this is something that Sindh has. So the potential to diversify its registry. So I think so it should not be limited to PMT 32, the eligible BIS beneficiary, but also enhancing the PMT maybe to 50 to 60, actually looping in missing middle, which is a debate going on in Pakistan for a very long period of time. Missing middle is actually the population that is not eligible for a cash transfer under PMT, but they do need government hand holding for survival and sustenance. And these are the most affected, the one on the thresholds. So maybe it can be diversified by going for a higher PMT and then diversifying the persona. So especially it's a women-oriented program, women social and economic empowerment-oriented program. So the 22% of the labor force, the women labor force, which has never been recognized, they should be targeted by design. The informal worker, whether it's urban informal worker, preference-wise, they should be also part of this intervention of energy intervention. And then again, I think so it has to come with a phased approach of targeting the lower PMTs first and higher PMTs later on. Again, how this can be done. So as far as cash transfer is concerned, so I mean, cash transfer is good for creating liquidity, but again, it comes with its structural constraints. I mean, for example, when we talk about housing or energy depreciation. And again, somehow BISP has been experimenting with a lot of payment models. It still is, it has been and still is. So I think so a more sustainable approach would be asset-oriented, time-bound energy investment. And again, we have seen that how one phenomena that works for poverty graduation is asset transfer and asset ownership. I mean, there's a global evidence around it. So it's high time that this intervention should be based around it. Further, coming to that, how this can be delivered. So there are multiple options. It can be a concessional loan and a partial capital subsidy, more like a blended finance model, where, for example, BISP pays for one-time capital grant, like 20 to 40% of the solar intervention amount. And then the rest of it can be paid through a concessional loan that is given. And again, this comes with a very powerful aspect that it is high time for Pakistan to experiment with social insurance. It's a diminishing fiscal space. Our social protection regime cannot take the entire burden. This is not fiscally viable. So we have recently done impact evaluation of Sehat Sulat program in Punjab, and we actually investigated the willingness to pay, that if the beneficiary can somehow contribute to 50% of the premium, which is very nominal. It's just like 4,200 rupees for premium that covers the entire family for hospitalization for any kind of surgery. And if a beneficiary can take up the burden of rupees 2,100, while the government funds the rest of 2,100, and they're all willing, because they're very smart enough to calculate and do the cost benefit analysis, that only 2,100 is going to save them from mega cost of surgeries. And so they are even willing to do it by taking debt or loan around it. So I think so it's high time that it's like a social insurance aspect can be added to it, and then it can be the pay as to go model, like we have examples from Kenya, M-Kopa. This is exactly the way they have dealt with this intervention. For example, BISP underwriting for the poorest, or giving an underwriting an initial deposit. And then it can be a clean energy voucher, which is coupled with microloan. Again, it's a very strong microfinance sector under the banking sector as well, plus the microfinance. And then again, community shared solar. I mean, as far as Sindh is concerned, I'm very confident this can happen, because see, the community-based organization like SRSO, like Thardeep, like Hands, and they have such strong community networks that this community shared solar or cluster solar for social protection neighborhoods. I mean, one very important aspect is to capitalize on NSCR. So you have this whole data lying, just as Ms. Manahil mentioned, that you have this data of 10 million lying, and that is very holistic data. I mean, the way that survey is pursued, even for climate-prone districts, they have this shock responsive part of the section. So again, this is very helpful for drawing the climate nexus within the energy paradigm. So I think so this is a safe space for the intervention, but it has to be asset-based delivery rather than cash-based delivery. I mean, cash system comes with its loopholes. It's not definitely very precise targeting. It comes with certain leakages. So, but again, this is a very safe space for dealing with this aspect of multidimensional poverty, which is energy poverty. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Faria, for such wonderful interventions. Your points are very well taken, and I completely agree that currently the programs that you mentioned are running successfully under BEST. We can design a similar sort of program, specifically including the asset ownership part that Manahil also mentioned, that we need to ensure that the people that are getting this solar panels, do they have the permanent living space or something like this? So the points are very well noted. Now I would request Mr. Mustafa Amjad. He's the program director at Renewables First. Mustafa, what are your insights and viewpoint about this overall policy proposal and the suggestions that you have listened to the discussion? So over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Zainab. Urdu is fine. We have. Do we need to speak in English, or is Urdu fine?
Up to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. अगर कोई नहीं है तो बेहतर है कि उर्दू में कम्युनिकेट कर लेता. बस I think first and foremost the thing is कि कुछ fundamentals हैं जो कि हमने सबने agree किए हैं. So I've been listening in obviously with all the perspectives. I've been a part of the earlier conversations around this. Sandbox की अच्छी बात ये होती है कि you can also nudge the research in certain directions. So वो obviously has been quite visible कि किस direction में हम जा रहे हैं. But fundamentally I think Ms. Manahil obviously मैम आफिया भी हैं, उन्होंने भी ये बात कही है कि subsidy to alternative का जो fundamental है उससे हम disagree नहीं कर रहे. So yeah, that's something that has to be done. A lot of these subsidies are misdirected at the end of the day. They're not reaching the right consumers. So that bit makes a lot of sense. What that could look like in execution. So that's the bit now we are talking about. So yeah, pehla part we've addressed to an extent. So when we talk about how to do it, wala part. So one thing that we have to be very mindful of is this is not a one-fit-all model, right? This will be a piecemeal kind of a thing where we'll be kind of taking some consumers off the targeted subsidy and giving them the alternative, which is the panel, right? The fundamentals in terms of economics, again, वो number 5-10 ऊपर हो सकता है, but it does make sense. Again, I will reiterate, जो cost of solar है, जिस तरह हम subsidy दे रहे हैं, जिस तरह वो balloon कर रही है, 200 consumers का जो breakdown है, again, जो less than 200 वाले consumers है, they're major cities, households, canal के घरों में आपको, you know, less than 200 की consumptions मिल जाएंगी. So वो fundamentally that there is a major issue with the framing of it all, right? So it makes sense कि हम even at a piecemeal level इसको कुछ हद तक करें. अब उसमें एक examples है. I think Ms. Manahil ने भी बात की उसकी जो Sin Solar Energy program था, उसमें भी हमने कुछ हद तक इसको pilot किया है. Leaving again the other operational inefficiencies aside, the idea fundamentally works, right? So that's the bit where I think I've had conversations. Mission 300, this is such a huge part, by the way. World Bank funded hai, Africa ki so many countries, they're doing that pay-as-you-go models bhi usme hai, usme opt-in facilities bhi hain, jahan pe rather than cash handouts, you're getting solar panels to, meet your energy needs. Again, inverter or non-inverter, that's another debate that does add to the cost. But then it also improves the metrics. जो social side पे जो मिस वरिया भी बात कर रही थी कि अगर आपने किसी को support ही करना है for the longer run, it makes sense to have a solar panel instead of monthly or time bound cash handouts. So उस तरह से it will always be a very easy to, I think, advertise, easy to fundraise kind of a proposal. So that's also, I think, Pakistan के लिए it makes a lot of sense. अच्छा, एक दो चीजें हैं जो पावर सेक्टर रिलेटेड हैं, जिसपे अगेन थोड़ा सा मैम आफिया ने भी इस पे बात की. मैं इसको थोड़ा सा I want to drill down on that a bit. So the first thing is कि these are quite a huge chunk of your consumers. In numbers, yes, they are. In revenue, they're not. So ये भी एक important चीज है कि these are the kind of consumers. जब आप डिस्कोस को कहते हो कि less than 200 consumers, तो वो कहते हैं कि हमारे सबसे बुरे consumers यही हैं. इनसे कलेक्शन, बिल कलेक्शन भी सबसे ज्यादा मुश्किल इनकी होती है. जो वैल्यू वो ला रहे हैं to the system is not much in terms of, again, revenue, but also in terms of the demands and needs of the system. So एक तरह से एक वो work around बनता है. And even more importantly, I think I said it the last time as well. अब IGCP में हम जो losses हैं उनको हम account for नहीं करते हैं. So जब हम अपनी प्लानिंग कर रहे होते हैं, जब हम डिमांड साइड की प्लानिंग कर रहे होते हैं, हम आईजीसीपी में जहां से हमें रेवेन्यू कलेक्शन नहीं होती, सो आपका ग्रिड वहां पे जा रहा है इन सर्टेन एरियाज ऑफ केस्को टेस्को. बट अगर आपको वहां से पेमेंट्स टाइमली रिसीव नहीं हो रही हैं, या वहां पे लाइन लॉसेस हैं, या बिल रीपेमेंट्स के इश्यूज हैं, तो हम वहां पे उसी हिसाब से लोड शेडिंग भी कर रहे हैं, राइट? एंड द आईजीसीपी डज नॉट इंटेंड टू cater to these consumers. So these are unbanked consumers practically. ये वो consumers है जिनको गवर्नमेंट ने कहा हमने नहीं देनी इनको बिजली, हमने प्लान भी नहीं करना कि इनको बिजली दे unless the demand grows. And obviously so that's the area where it makes a lot of sense, both in terms of banking the unbanked, in terms of improving the the GDP, in terms of making sure कि जो आपकी energy access की again metric in itself, but also the quality of energy access. Because major जो issue आता है, it's not about just providing energy, it's about the quality of energy access. वो काफी हद तक improve हो सकता है. So I think that's something that we, again, this in itself, this initiative in itself, जहाँ पे हम displacement कर रहे हैं gas subsidies की with the solar panel, could also be dovetailed with something bigger around, the fundamental question of quality of energy access, the energy access to those that do not have the grid. An easy way to start, by the way, I don't know, सादिया ने जब वर्ल्ड बैंक के साथ इन्होंने एक स्टडी की थी जिसमें उन्होंने मैप किया हुआ था कि ग्रिड कहाँ तक जा रही है, कहाँ पे नहीं जा रही, और आगे कहाँ पे हमें मिनी ग्रिड्स की जरूरत है, कहाँ पे इट्स बेटर नॉट टू एक्सटेंड द ग्रिड एट ऑल. तो एरियाज the areas where the grid does not go, and see कि वहाँ पे क्या opportunities हो सकती हैं of energy access. That could be a good add-on to some of the work that you've been piloting, yeah, suggesting. So again, I think the pieces are there, to be fair. It's just about how do we bring it all together to make more meaningful structures out of it. But again, agreeing with the fundamentals, or to be fair, I think this is something that can be piloted in a province. So province से start इसलिए करना भी जरूरी है क्योंकि provinces already ये कर रहे हैं. As we sit here, पंजाब की भी स्कीम है सोलराइजेशन की, वो भी सोलर पैनल्स बांट रहे हैं, सिंध भी बांट रहा है, केपी भी बांट रहा है, बलूचिस्तान भी बांट रहा है, वो करते रहेंगे. आइडिया यही है फंडामेंटली कि हम लोगों को बिजली दे रहे हैं बट साथ हम बिजली पेमेंट्स भी दे रहे हैं. ये वही लोग हैं या फंडामेंटली सेम कैटेगरी है, राइट? सो हाउ डू वी एक्चुअली मेक श्योर कि उसको साइकिल को तोड़ना है, राइट? इट्स अबाउट गेटिंग आउट ऑफ दैट रट, ना कि हम उस साइकिल को बलून करते जाएं टिल इट बिकम्स अनदर बिग जायंट कि फिर हम बिस्क को भी रोते रहें कि ये बहुत बड़ा हिट है ऑन आवर budget and such. So that's kind of where I think starting with the province could be really helpful. Obviously, PPDB is here. Fan replacement की भी बात उन्होंने की थोड़ा सा नीका की जो schemes है. पहले भी हमने थोड़ी बात की. Again, the provincial dynamic is quite important in all of this. So I think that could be one way of starting this. And मैम आफिया ने भी बात की disco level पे इसको देखे. So maybe just start with the province, start with the disco, with the patronage of the province, and see how this scheme could play out in all of this. And final point, opt-in model भी बुरा नहीं हो सकता इस चीज के लिए. I've talked to a lot of BIS recipients जो कहते हैं यार कि जो जान जाती है ना BIS की पेमेंट लेने के लिए या जो प्रोसेस है of getting to the money, that's also something that a lot of people would prefer not to do. So अगर कोई इस तरह का alternative जहाँ people can opt in कि okay, this is what I'll be getting out of it, एक one off जहाँ पे I can actually get a sustained investment for 20 years, why not? So could work. Again, I think that's something जो कि comment में भी chat था, शफकत का question था, politically does it make sense? Obviously nobody wants to get rid of subsidies. No government would want to say कि हमने subsidies खत्म कर दी हैं for the most vulnerable. But हाँ, उसकी packaging अगर हम इस तरह से करें कि positive messaging के साथ अगर उसकी packaging करें, so it could be something that a lot of people could opt into as well. So just a thought there, could work.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mustafa, for highlighting all the valuable points. And I would now move towards the Q&A session. If anybody have any question, please raise your hand. Yeah, please go ahead.
I would like to make some comments. I think I'm the one who is as old as the reform process of Pakistan's power sector. Okay, for example, my name is, by the way, Tahir Naeem Aliana. I'm a power sector professional. I started my career in 1991. And Pakistan's power sector reform formally started in 1992 with the support of World Bank. So since then, I have been following it very closely. Although in between, about 15 years I spent outside Pakistan. STPI, this is the first time I'm sitting in an STPI workshop or a session. What really I want to say, I mean, not about your data and all these things. What STPI is a policy institute. Okay. My suggestion or my comments is what STPI is what kinds of policies STPI is developing. These are not reaching to the people who, like in Planning Commission or in other ministries, where these policies got approval and these are actually implemented. I will give you one very pertinent example because your main topic is redefining Pakistan's power system economics. And this is my bread and butter for the last more than 30 years. Very pertinent to what STPI is doing. And this is the dilemma of Pakistan's power sector. And this I have raised to the level when I got the opportunity to sit with persons like Mr. Ahsan Iqbal and all these people. For example, and not many people, only only those who really go into the depth of these reform process, they can understand. Okay, not even, I've been reading World Bank reports. They started in 1992, and then in 2019, they issued an 80-page report about Pakistan's power sector reform starting from 1992. I read this report. What has happened in these last more than 35 years? When you talk about sector, there are three subsectors: power generation, transmission, and distribution. These three sectors are integrally connected with each other. You cannot separate one from the other. I mean, it cannot happen that you focus one subsector and you ignore the other two sectors. This has exactly happened in Pakistan, starting from 1992. Okay, what do you mean to say? 1992, government of Pakistan, at that time, the federal government, they approved the power sector reform process. In 1994, PPIB was established. 1997, what they call PEPRA Act came, PEPRA entered DCs, discos, unbundling took place. ये सारी चीजें आप लोग जानते हैं. starting from the first power policy of 1994 till 2021, the government of Pakistan only focused over generation. And as a policy mechanism, I should say. Okay, the power policy of 1994, it was a power generation policy. The power policy of 1998, it was a power generation policy. 2002, power generation policy. 2006 came the first renewable energy policy. Okay, then in 2013 came the power policy. 2013 power policy was the first power policy in Pakistan which actually addressed generation, transmission, and distribution holistically, but it never got implemented. Why? Because it was immediately replaced by a power policy of 2015. The first policy or the first electricity policy which holistically addressed generation, transmission, and distribution came in 2021. What you call National Electricity Policy 2021. And this is, everything is happening under this one. In one of the meetings, I was sitting with Mr. Hassan Iqbal, okay, and I pointed out that had this National Electricity Policy came in the early 1990s, Pakistan's power sector would have been in better shape. So what happened, what I'm trying to say, what happened in all these years, starting from 1992, जो बाबू बैठे होते हैं पावर डिवीजन में, for them this policy घर में जाना है, ठीक है.
सर, I would request कि अगर आप 1 मिनट में summarize कर लें ताकि हम और लोगों का भी comment question.
They focused on power generation as a policy. Unfortunately, World Bank was not present there to give them a better advice. This is the result. Since it was a policy document, today we have 40% excess capacity. And I end with this one. Power generation, 40% excess capacity, power transmission, serious transmission constraint, this goes in very bad shape. So what I mean to say, what I really want to say that whatever policies you are making, please try to reach to the people who are actually doing it. I'm sorry to use these words, otherwise, ये रोटी खाने वाली exercise को कोई फायदा नहीं.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your points. And one thing that I agree with you कि हमारे पास integrated planning की definitely कमी है. जब हम generation side को देख रहे होते हैं तो हम distribution को नहीं देख रहे. लेकिन ये कि दूसरा point जो मैं add करूँगी regarding the पॉलिसी मेकर्स तक हमारे सजेशंस जाते हैं नहीं, तो ये कि इस पूरे प्रोसेस का पार्ट था नेप्रा, जो कि एक इलेक्ट्रिसिटी टैरिफ सेट करने में जिनका एक मेन रोल होता है. ही वाज आल्सो गोइंग टू जॉइन अस टुडे बट ड्यू टू सम रीजन ही कुड नॉट. लेकिन ये कि हम लोग मेक श्योर करते हैं कि हुएवर द पॉलिसी मेकर्स आर, और जो जिन डिपार्टमेंट से रेलिवेंट पॉलिसीज हम बना रहे हैं उनके साथ हम रेगुलरली इंगेज कर सकें ताकि कुछ पॉइंट्स अपटेक कर सकें. डू वी हैव एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस और कमेंट्स? यस असनात.
I have a suggestion that to give a subsidy, it's just a suggestion, the point which can be maybe helpful in future, that once the smart metering is done and the AMI meters are there, if we have to provide some funds or cash thing from the basic income support program, we can give the chargeable cards also, which can be only used through the meters. So that it will not be a risk fund. So this, I guess, this is a very good suggestion from us, from our side, that in the future we can give subsidies like this thing.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. So I think keeping in the interest of time, I'll request Dr. Fariha to kind of present the vote of thanks.
Thank you. On behalf of STPI, I would like to extend the vote of thanks. We are extremely grateful to our distinguished panelists, Dr. Afia from PIDE, Ms. Manahil from World Bank, Mr. Mustafa, Mr. Wakas, the representative from PPDB, to Ms. Zainab for moderating this session, and Mr. Ubaidullah and Energy Unit for pulling off this very critical debate which is direly needed at this point in time. So we are extremely grateful, and I hope that the policy outcomes that will be coming out through this seminar would be useful for sensitizing the development partners, for sensitizing the social protection entities, and how do we move this further within the policy circles. So this is a stepping stone for STPI for actually holding this sandbox, and may this reflect itself into policy interventions in the future and a concrete program. So again, extremely grateful to the audience as well for carefully listening to the entire conversation and giving inputs and insights. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. And the lunch is served outside. Thank you and bye-bye.